guys, Akil Stokes here. Welcome back to another episode of the Trading Coach Podcast. I appreciate you guys joining me as always. And if you want to support the show, do me a favor, leave me a rating and a review. In today's episode, I want to talk a little bit about productivity and really follow up on a podcast that I did in the past talking about the dopamine detox. At the time, it was a question I got on Instagram from a trader asking me what I thought about it. And I read a few articles about it and gave my opinion. Well, this morning I was listening to a TED Talk, and I'll put the link in the bottom of this show as well. It's a TED Talk by Chris Baily talking about how to get your brain to focus. And it essentially talked about similar concepts of basically getting away from stimulation. And one of the first things he said was that my life, and he had this realization that his life was a series of screens, right? Screen time, screen time, screen time. He would wake up, his phone go off, he would look at his alarm, screen time. He would go straight to his computer to check emails or browse social media, screen time. He would take a break to go watch breakfast. He'd be watching something on his tablet, screen time. You know, at work, screen time, right? His whole life really revolved around being in front of some type of screen, whether it's a TV screen, whether it's a computer screen or a phone screen. And he decided to do some research on that. And he noticed that, he did a lot of research, and I'll let him explain it if you guys go and watch the video. But he noticed that the brain can really focus for only about 40 seconds at a time. And when we're involving ourselves with so much screen time. And although we think our brain is getting distracted because you've got 18 things going on, that's not really the case. What's happening is because we're becoming overstimulated, and because we're becoming overstimulated, we're actually craving those distractions even more. So our brain it kind of wants us to get distracted. And in a weird way, it's kind of like a drug where we're searching for the thing that we don't actually want to do. And he was looking for ways to kind of solve that problem. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the dopamine detox idea, where our brain is becoming distracted. We are kind of rewarded for finding these distractions. So if you can kind of get away from screen life, get away from, technology, I guess you can say that we'll kind of go back to a better version of ourselves where our brain is more productive. And it makes perfect sense if you think about it, right? Our brain it's not really a muscle. There's, I guess, a small part of it could be considered a muscle, but you've probably heard the kind of saying, treat your brain like a muscle, right? And I work out. I coach track and field, so I know a good bit about physical fitness and training and whatnot. And one of the most important things that you can do when it comes to working out, no matter what type of results you want to see, is allow yourself to recover. I would even say that recovery is more important than the actual workout. Many of you guys are familiar with kind of like the steroids era and steroids in general. And people think that steroids gets you big and bulky and all this stuff. Steroids doesn't make you stronger. Steroids does nothing like that. Human growth hormones don't really do that to you. What they do is it allows you to recover quicker so you can do more work with less recovery. So instead of going hard in the gym every other day, you can now go hard in the gym every day. So your muscles have more time, or your muscles recover better, which means you can work them harder, which means you can get better results because you're doing it more frequent. And our brain is the same way, right? If we overload our brain, it actually has a negative effect on us. So in the weight room, in the gym or running, right? If you work your body too hard, what happens, right? You get fatigued, eventually you get hurt, right? So in order to avoid that, you need to give the proper amount of recovery to get the most out of your workout. And your brain is the same way. If we want our brain to function really at its top level, we need to give it time to recover. And this was another topic that I covered in the podcast, talking about the Pomodoro technique that I started doing about a year ago now, maybe, where it would be very focused segments of work, about 25 minutes of focused work time. And then you give yourself a 5-minute distraction. So a 5-minute recovery time, I guess, for your brain, a 5-minute reward time for your brain. And that's something that's helped me. But this idea of allowing your brain to wander takes it to a whole different level. And it's not just, hey, take a 5-minute break from focused work. It's take a massive break from distractions in general. And it got to the point where this guy went about, he said, I think, it takes our mind about 8 days to calm down and fully rest. And I think he did an experiment where he got away from screen time and whatnot for a month. And he saw some amazing results. Now, obviously, we can't all do that. Many of us are working where we require a screen. I am a trader, right? So I'm in front of a screen all the time, or not all the time, but I need to be in front of a screen to run my educational program. I need to be in front of a screen to execute my trades, to check on my trades, to do stuff like that. So I can't really go off, cold turkey and just stop everything. But something that we can do, and something that I can do, and I would recommend you guys doing, is limit the amount of time that you spend in front of the screen. And in order to limit the amount of time you spend in front of the screen, you need to end up being more productive. I spoke to a younger trader this weekend who was kind of new into Forex. He was excited, and the first thing he was talking about was, hey, I just want to be in front of the screen all the time. And I'm like, well, that's a negative. Because what happens is that the more time you spend in front of your screen, especially without those kind of planned distractions, the less information you're going to retain, right? Things are going to go numb. Let me ask you guys this question. How many of you guys have been through the back testing process, right? Of going through historical data and looking for results and seeing if your system actually works, right? Now, I would ask you this follow-up question. How many times have you been going through that back testing data and you start off and your eyes are sharp and you're seeing everything, and then you fast forward an hour later and like things get blurry and you find yourself missing trades? Right? Well, my hand's in the air, right? Because that happens because your brain is getting fatigued. And the same thing can happen with your live trading. If you're someone who feels like they need to be in front of your screen the entire day from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night trading the markets, unless you have it planned out where you have very specific breaks and you're taking care of your brain and allowing it to recover, I would guarantee that your trading in the afternoon is going to be worse than the morning, because you're going to start seeing things less clearly. You're going to start making more mistakes simply because you've fatigued yourself, and in many cases just not even knowing. You've also, when you fatigue yourself, you limit the things that make you a good trader, and one of that is creativity. I know it sounds weird, right? We always talk about rules-based trading and follow the plan, but I do believe that trading is an art and a science, right? There's unless you're trading a fully automated system, or just even like something as simple as like a moving average cross where this crosses that, there's a good bit of interpretation. And interpretation is creativity, right? You have to have a creative mind to look at the market, to analyze what it's showing you, to kind of uncover the hidden clues that's hidden within the chart to find your best trading opportunities. And if you're lacking creativity, if your brain is fatigued, you're going to miss out on those very small clues that the market gives you, the clues that really you need to find in order to get your best trading opportunities. So one of the solutions was that you gotta let your mind wander more often, right? You are your most productive self, I guess, when your mind is just wandering, when you're bored, right? Rediscover boredom, and this hits home for me a lot, because my best work, right? If I look back at everything I've ever done, it's a very small list of all the successful things I've done. A very small list, so it's not that hard to look back at it. But if I look back at all of the things I've done in my career that have been very valuable, they share something in common, and they all come from essentially, I don't want to call it being distracted, but they all happen when I'm not trying to do it, right? So I started writing like 3 books in my career, right? And I've got the bulk of that work done when I wasn't focused on writing a book, right? I've written many articles for magazines, and every time I sit in front of a computer, I'm like, okay, Akil, time to write this article, I can never get it done. But if I'm out on an hour bike ride, boom, an idea pops into my head, and all of a sudden I start flowing. Right? Same thing goes for strategy development. If I'm sitting here trying to get this inside bar strategy to work and it's not working, I go for a walk around the neighborhood. Then all of a sudden, an idea pops into my head, right? When that brain is allowed to wander, you often find yourself becoming more creative. And when you become more creative, you start finding solutions to the problems in which you were trying to address in the first place. So if you don't do this already, I would definitely recommend doing a few things. One, setting yourself up on a schedule during your trading day. For you guys that have ever joined us in the live room, right, you notice we take 13-minute breaks, right? It's not because I've got to go to the gentleman's room or I'm tired of talking, but it's because we need the chance for the brain to reset. We need that little bit of rest period so we can come back and stay focused. If we're going at it for 3 hours a day, right, we're going to become less efficient. But do stuff like planning that, right? Plan a workout, right? That's my personal preference. I'm not really big on, I would love to say that I used to sit outside and maybe read a book and just, listen to the birds and stuff like that. But I've got 2 kids that are young, that are crazy. So, we don't get a lot of peace in the house. So for me, I get my meditation, I get my peace during a workout. I went for an hour-long bike ride this morning for our Q&A session, and came back with an excellent idea on how to address a topic. I'll go for a workout where I'll run or I'll go weightlift, and all of a sudden I'm coming up with these brilliant business ideas on what I could present for our next 4-day workshop or something like that. That's probably, I would say, the most valuable part of my trading day, because that's really the only time where I have a chance to be creative. Aside from that, I'm talking with traders on the platform. I'm doing trading myself. I'm handling stuff for the business. I'm playing with my kids. So that is my time to kind of, really just brainstorm and discover ideas without even looking for them. And one of the things that Chris said at the end of his talk was that we need to make 2 fundamental shifts, and one of them is something that I used to do this back in the day, but he said that right now a lot of our mindset is that we need to fit more in. Right? We need to do more. We need to do more. We need to do more. I always used to say, man, I wish I had more hours in the day so I can get more done. And again, over the past probably 5 or 10 years, it's become, I've accepted that we only have 24 hours. Having children, having a family has forced me to become a time manager, where I need to, instead of, grinding at my trading for 13 hours a day, I need to spend time with the family. So I can't do that. So I have to figure out how to work on my trading, how to run a business, how to do everything in multiple businesses, how to do everything I need to do within a lesser period of time. So my focus has been on balance and becoming more effective and more productive. And that's kind of the opposite of fitting more in. I'm no longer looking to kind of fit more. I'm looking to think of ideas of how can I give myself more space? How can I free up more time? Because time is becoming more and more important to me. And there are many tasks that you can do, right? I mean, think about it like this. Do you need to check your charts every 15 minutes? No. Maybe if you're a 4-hour trader, maybe you say, hey, I'm going to look at my charts every 4 hours or every 8 hours. So boom, you've killed some time there instead of checking your charts every 2 hours when you can't do anything anyway, right? Because the candle hasn't closed. Do you need to look at your emails every 15 minutes? No, right? I've gone back to looking at my emails every time my phone dings to only focusing on it 2 times a day. I'll look at it in the morning. I'll look at it at night, right? So I've just saved, probably an hour of not only going on the computer, looking at my email, answering my email, and blah, blah, blah. I've opened up an hour of time there. There's so many different activities that you can do to become more efficient and to give yourself more time. When you give yourself more time, you can add some of those those boredom or those wandering activities that allow your brain to think, which will ultimately allow you to become more productive, more efficient, and just overall better at what you're doing. And also better at life. It allows you to not become overstimulated, not become overwhelmed at life, and just become a better version of yourself. So I think that's important, not just in trading, but in life as well. And I'll leave you with this, right? One of the things that really caught my interest in his talk was he talked about kind of the percentages and what our brain spends focusing on what, where he says, our mind is always kind of thinking about 3 things, right? The past, the present, and the future. We spend about 12% of our energy on the past. We spend about 28% of our energy on the present. We spend about 48% of our energy on the future. And again, that number doesn't add to 100. But the rest of that time is kind of like dull areas, like lost in space type area with our brain. And it's interesting that we spend basically, more than the past and the present combined focusing on the future when our brain is allowed to focus. And if you want to be successful, what do you need to think about? Do you need to spend a lot of time thinking about the past? Well, no. Do you need to spend a maximum amount of time thinking about the future or about the present? No. I mean, the present is important, but we're in the present. So if you are thinking about the future, you should already be planning for the present. That's kind of weird and whatnot. So just disregard that. But the bulk of our energy should be focused on the future, where we want to go, what we need to do to get to that point. And the present shouldn't be really spent thinking about the present, but really acting on what we need to do in present time. So if thinking about the future is what you need to do anyway to put yourself in a future successful position, don't we want to allow our brains to have more time to focus on what's ultimately going to give us success instead of getting distracted by the YouTube ads or the Twitter headlines that come up in the present? Well, yeah. So give it a try. Again, I'm not a fan of going as far as dumping everything. I've actually done that before by accident. I broke my phone around New Year's and was phoneless for about a week. And it was the best week of my life because there happened to be I had no phone. It's a dead time in the markets anyway, so I didn't really care about trading. And it was amazing. That's not realistic for me in real life to do that while running a few businesses and whatnot. But if we can kind of find balance between that, not going all the way, but giving us enough to give us that little bit of recovery, I think it's going to be amazing to see how much that brain type muscle grows. And of course, as muscle grows, typically performance does as well.